Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. I hope you're all doing well. So today I'm going to compare two eyeshadow palettes. One is the James Charles and Morphe palette and one is the Jaclyn Hill Volume 1 and Morphe palette. So I wanted to compare these because these are both, first of all, Morphe bestsellers and from the biggest influences in, I think, the world, I would say. These are like OG and cult favorite palettes, and I feel like some people can be confused as to whether they should buy this one or this one. I'm sorry for the condition of the Jaclyn Hill palette. It's all beat up because it's years old. Like I bought it when this first came out, in the very first what is it called, lineup. On launch day, like the very first day that it launched, and so that is why the packaging also looks a little bit different. After that they changed up their packaging. I got the James Charles palette about a year and a half ago. I've judged these palettes based on 5 criterias. Number 1 is blending, the supreme, the ultimate, the pretty much the only thing that matters. And I have color story, variety of shades, pigmentation and price. Pigmentation would be another thing that matters the most, I feel like. So let's start with blendability. I'm not going to beat around the bush, I'm just going to say it. The Jaclyn Hill palette wins this blindfolded because it's just so ultra blendable. All you have to do is tap it 3 or 4 times and it's blended, smoked out, perfection already, alright? With the James Charles palette, you need to put in a lot of work, and some shades definitely don't blend out the best. I mean, truly, the Jaclyn Hill palette blends out much more easier than the James Charles palette. So if blendability is a criteria for you, which it is for me, get the Jaclyn Hill palette. Another thing is the James Charles palette works best with an eyeshadow primer. I think James did mention that in his reveal video that you will need an eyeshadow primer with this, because if you're thinking that you will use a concealer and you'll set it with a translucent powder or some eyeshadow and then use these shadows on top, let me tell you, I've tried that a lot of times. It just doesn't work. The color payoff is just not the same. It is very difficult to blend a lot of the shades that are in this palette. So let's move on to a second point, which is the color story. You know what, I've been so stupid, I haven't even opened and showed them to you. So here you go, this is the Jaclyn Hill palette. This is literally every makeup artist and every makeup lover's dream. I mean, look at those shades. So you will have a lot of neutrals, okay? Also, I think this will suit all skin tones, whether you are the fairest of the fair or the darkest and the deepest of them all. This will definitely suit you. And there's also a little bit of color, like there's this blue, teal, green, purple row that you can play with, so it's not completely neutral, it's also a little bit fun. I was in love with this palette when Jaclyn revealed it in her video. You also get a good variety of shimmer shades and mattes, so that is another plus. And this is the James Charles palette and it is absolutely humongous, to be honest, in an annoying way, because you can't really travel with it. I mean, look at the size difference of these palettes. When I had this, I thought this was big, but look at this. Look at the size difference. That is crazy. Do you know that the James Charles palette now actually has a mini? I would suggest getting that over this, not only because of the size, but also because that one has a mirror. And also, truly, honestly, you do not end up using all these eyeshadows. Can you see that? I have not hit pan on even one of these shades. The color story of this is, to be honest, extremely beautiful. I love how colorful this is. So why I bought it is because of the same reason that you want to buy it. So you think that, oh my god, it has all the colors, right? And it has all my transition shades, all my dark browns, and it has a matte black, it has a white, it has greens, pinks, purples, blues, you name it. But the thing is, a lot of those shades just don't work well on your eyes. They're not pigmented enough, and I wish they were, because the color story is so beautiful. You do have shimmers in this, although not as many as the Jaclyn Hill palette. The shimmers in this palette are kind of like a saving grace because they are definitely better than the mattes. Not the best shimmers out there, but definitely way better than the mattes in the palette. I would say these are literally the opposites of each other. The Jaclyn Hill palette is so much more towards the nude side, and the James Charles palette is of course full of colors. In my opinion, if you are not a makeup artist or an influencer and you do not need all these colors, you do not need to buy the James Charles palette. To be honest, even if you are a makeup artist, I would suggest the Jaclyn Hill palette because it just blends so much better. Also, the shades are a lot more wearable. I mean, when in real life are you going to wear a yellow eyeshadow or an orange eyeshadow or a purple eyeshadow? Most people won't. I know some people love it, which is amazing. So if you are an average consumer, I would say go with the Jaclyn Hill palette. I would only suggest the James Charles palette to the people who already have a lot of nude palettes in their collections or a lot of nude eyeshadows in their collection. And they're looking to add a little bit of a color in their collection. These days, everyone is doing these rainbow kind of palettes. I think James Charles was definitely the first one. Let's move on to the variety of shades. So of course you get more variety of colorful shades in the James Charles palette, but you do get more variety of nudes in the Jaclyn Hill palette. So I think it comes back to the same point. If you are a makeup artist or an average consumer, even if you are a bridal makeup artist, I think mostly bridal makeup artists have to use a lot of nudes and blacks and browns and burgundies and shimmers, which you have all of that in the Jaclyn Hill palette. Even if you want a little bit of color, you have that also in the palette. Let's talk about the price of both the palettes. So the James Charles palette and the Jaclyn Hill palette are both worth $39. James Charles palette is significantly bigger than the Jaclyn Hill palette, and also it has 39 shades, and the Jaclyn Hill palette only has 35 shades. It is bigger, but do you see how much space there is in between each row of eyeshadows and in between each shadow? The pan size of the shadows are smaller, and when it comes to the Jaclyn Hill eyeshadow palette, the space between the rows is significantly less, almost half. And I feel like this is the space between each shadow is pretty much the same. I think the Jaclyn Hill palette does have 35 shades like I mentioned, so you will get more bang for your buck in the James Charles palette. You are getting 5 more eyeshadows for the same price. But here's the thing, would you rather have quantity over quality? Because I do feel like the Jaclyn Hill palette has much superior quality than the James Charles palette. I've had both the palettes for the longest time, and I still love the Jaclyn Hill palette more. I truly love her palette more than the James Charles one, and I really wanted to love the James Charles palette also because that color story is absolutely beautiful. So I guess we do have a clear winner here, which is dun 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 dun, the Jaclyn Hill palette. So that's it for today's video, guys. I hope you guys enjoyed this rundown, and let me know which palette would you pick, or if you have both of those palettes, which one do you like better? Is it the same as me, or do you like the James Charles palette more? I'd also love it if you would come follow me on Instagram and Twitter, and also please like the video and subscribe. Thank you so much for watching, and I really do hope that you guys enjoyed this video. I'll see you in my next one, guys. Bye.